So the Supreme Court issued a 5-4 order, which completely shook up our country and created a significant battle between the state of Texas and the Biden administration over the border. And now a new precedent from an unlikely source has been submitted to the court in support of the state of Texas. So let's talk about what is happening. Now, really quick before we jump into this video, I want to ask you guys for a huge favor. Looking at some of my analytics, about 60% of all my viewers are not subscribed to the channel, and also YouTube is unsubscribing a lot of people without them knowing. So just double check that if you want to support the channel. And also want to bring your guys' attention to something new that I'm doing. I created a new channel. It's under the title The Law Life, and it's going to be linked down below. Over on that channel, we're going to be covering some other legal topics and some more just general mainstream issues. And I did this because right now we have some legal channels on YouTube that are putting out commentary, but they're hiding the fact that they're actually giving liberal and progressive point of views when it comes to law. So I did this to combat that. If you guys are interested, if you want to support me over there, I will leave links down below, and I'm going to start putting out some videos over there as well, and I would love your guys' support. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we need to talk about a 5-4 order recently issued by the Supreme Court involving the state of Texas and their border dispute and their belief that they have the right of self-defense when it comes to their state. Now the Biden administration is trying to take the opportunity opened up after the Supreme Court's 5-4 order to essentially have this entire case thrown out. However, the state of Texas is fighting back against that attempt, and they have used a new decision issued in a case involving the Daily Wire, and they're using that to support their border dispute issue. Now, this case we're going to be talking about in this video is the state of Texas versus the Department of Homeland Security. Now, recently you may recall that Governor Greg Abbott reacted to the Supreme Court's order by issuing a letter to the Biden administration outlining that the state of Texas has a right of self-defense under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Constitution. The governor there makes the claim that despite that Supreme Court order, the Biden administration has failed to fulfill their duties to protect the state of Texas against an invasion. Therefore, the state of Texas is engaging in their own self-defense. This has set up a significant clash between the state of Texas and the Biden administration over this important legal battle, this issue over the border. And right now, this is even more important going into the election. Now, we need to do some background on this case so you understand what the Supreme Court's order was and how it impacted this case and what's now currently going on with this new precedent being used in the lower court. The recent Supreme Court order involves overruling a preliminary injunction that was granted by the 5th Circuit 3-judge panel. The 5th Circuit's panel decision prevented the United States Border Patrol from cutting, destroying, or otherwise interfering with C-wire or concertina wire that the state of Texas had put up along 29 miles of municipal and private land in the Eagle Pass area. In this case, the state of Texas originally sued the federal government in a Texas federal district court, alleging that there was a trespass in violations of the Administrative Procedures Act, also known as the APA. In this case, the lower courts originally granted a TRO, but then later on review denied the request for a preliminary injunction. What was interesting about that decision was that the court did not agree that cutting the wire for one medical emergency then justified leaving it open for thousands of other individuals to then go through. But even despite that, the judge still denied Texas' request for a preliminary injunction. Texas then quickly appealed that denial of the preliminary injunction up to the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals, and along with that appeal request, Texas sought an emergency injunction pending the appeal in the 5th Circuit. Essentially, Texas appealed the injunction denial, and they wanted the 5th Circuit to at least put a temporary administrative injunction while this larger appeal was being reviewed. The 5th Circuit ultimately granted that administrative injunction while this review was taking place. Of course, the Biden administration did not like that the smaller injunction was left in place, that it was granted by the 5th Circuit, so then they filed an emergency application to the Supreme Court. They asked for the Supreme Court to step in early and vacate the 5th Circuit's administrative injunction. And on review, the Supreme Court issued a 5-4 order, which granted the federal government's request to vacate that administrative stay. Now, after this was then sent back down to the 5th Circuit, and the 5th Circuit decided to put the case on hold and then send this back down to the lower court for a temporary period of time for further development of the record and to essentially develop more evidence. Now, recently, the district court, who had this case submitted back down to them for a temporary period, heard arguments on this new evidence and some of these issues and is now set to essentially rule on what they want to do. But even more concerning is the fact that the Biden administration is now taking this limited remand period and essentially taking this limited time period when this was sent back down to the district court, and they have now filed a motion to dismiss, and they want this entire case thrown out. In the motion, the Biden administration argues that there is a lack of subject matter jurisdiction, and that Texas lacks standing to bring this lawsuit at all. But in response, Texas is now using a new decision issued, and it comes from a surprising case which involves the Daily Wire. This is the Daily Wire versus the Department of State case, which was reviewed by a different court in this same jurisdiction. They state in the notice of the opinion that in that case, the state of Texas, along with the Daily Wire, sued the State Department and various officials for censoring the speech of American media companies. Although defendants advance a factual attack on jurisdiction, the Daily Wire's decision refused to dismiss the case because plaintiffs had alleged facts sufficient to establish standing. In that decision, the court found that if, however, the defendant's jurisdictional attack is intertwined with the merits of a claim, then the court should defer ruling on the motion until summary judgment or trial. Now, that may be confusing to you guys, but what is happening here is that a court has already found in a similar case in the Daily Wire lawsuit that the government there could not attempt to dismiss the case by saying that, things were not sufficient, that there was not standing, when they were really attacking the merits of the argument. And since the merits and all this was so intertwined, you couldn't just dismiss the case at that initial stage. Instead, you would have to develop the evidence more, move towards at least a summary judgment or a trial before you could have the case dismissed. Similarly here, you have the state of Texas saying that we're in a similar situation. The federal government here is attacking the merits. Our merits is intertwined with all this, and therefore this case should proceed forward and not be thrown out at such an early stage. In response to that, they argue that the Daily Wire lawsuit has no relevance to the defendant's pending motion to dismiss. Defendants have not challenged Texas' standing for any claims raised in the complaint. Rather, that defendants have argued under Rule 12b-1 that Texas' claims are barred by sovereign immunity and lack of a final agency action as a matter of law. So what the federal government here is arguing is that the Daily Wire decision should not change the outcome of their case at all, that this should be thrown out because they are not actually attacking the merits as their claim. Instead, they're saying that under sovereign immunity, that this case should generally just not be brought at all. So the government argues that the Daily Wire decision should not change the outcome of what they're requesting at all. And essentially, they're saying that they're not arguing against the merits of the lawsuit, but instead that essentially sovereign immunity just generally bars this type of lawsuit, and under 12b-1 in that motion, the case should be dismissed. They also argue that there has been no APA action. They're saying that what is being challenged here by the state of Texas was not a final agency action. Instead, it's something more managerial and it's more day-to-day operations, and that there was no final agency action to even validate an APA claim that Texas has brought. So this is something very important that we're going to have to watch going forward, because there is a limited remand going on right now with this border dispute in the Eagle Pass area. After the Supreme Court's emergency decision, the Fifth Circuit decided to send this back down, what was supposed to be for a limited time period where the district court was simply supposed to develop more evidence and a additional robust record. But instead, now the Biden administration is trying to take the opportunity to have the entire case thrown out. And now additional sources from cases like the Daily Wire lawsuit are having to be put forward to try to avoid that. But I would suspect, regardless of what happens, already now this case has made its way to the Supreme Court on emergency application. And I suspect that eventually, despite what the district court says, either way, this will eventually make its way back to the Supreme Court. So hopefully you guys found that information helpful. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below, and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Also, if you guys like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm. And also just check out that new channel that I created. Links will be down below in the details section in the pinned comment. I would love your guys' support. Subscribe to the channel, and you will start to see new videos rolling out over there on that new channel. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.